I don't know how many in-studio stuff he does. He's so damn busy. But I got to tell you, Billy, I have had you on the show probably a handful of times, most recently promoting Screwball. And you are one of my favorite filmmakers. And like, for real, I know everybody that interviews you blows smoke up your ass and says, oh, Billy, you're the greatest. But I have been a big-time admirer of your work. Oh, hold on, and then I leave his mic off. That's almost the funniest thing ever, is it not?
You silence me.
That's almost the funniest thing ever. A guy telling you how good he is, and he turns your mic off. Billy Corben in the studio today. Hi, Billy. How are you, buddy?
I don't really know how to follow up that intro, so you might as well mute me. I don't really know.
I might as well just walk up and say, you know what? I know you get sick of hearing it, but your stuff sucks. I could not stand Cocaine Cowboys. I couldn't get through the first 5 minutes of it. It was the dumbest story ever. Screwball's fake, and who cares about Highlight, buddy?
Thank you. Good night.
Billy Corben in the studio. I could talk. I want to forewarn you, Billy, that I hope you have at least an hour because, you know.
Oh, yeah, my flight's not until noon 30, I think.
And the airport's right down the street.
Right here.
Yeah, I mean, we're like you. I don't think you could get any closer to the airport.
No, this is great. I feel like we're on the runway right now, actually.
We are sometimes. Now, we are on the glide slope. You can hear them come over sometimes.
Now, when you come in, are you the type of guy, like, are you so big that you have a driver, or do you rent a car when you come into town?
No, I rented a car.
Okay, see, I wasn't for sure, like, if Billy Corben had a driver.
I mean, you would think the money Billy made from just Cocaine Cowboys and broke, that he would, have his private G6 to bring him up here.
No, I'm just here. You see my shirt. I'm just here to remind all my friends in Tampa, all you tampons out there, that from your brothers and sisters in Miami, the Cuban sandwich does not have salami on it.
Yeah.
Muchas gracias, mi amigos y amigas. Full stop. That's what I'm here to do. You see,
full-blown Cuban protest today.
There's no salami.
No.
So do you find Miami people that see how Tampa has bastardized your Cuban sandwich? It looks like you take that personal, Billy.
We do. We take it real personal.
I saw the shirt you posted on social media the other day, the Cuban sandwich shirt with all the ingredients.
That's what I'm wearing.
I didn't even recognize it.
What are you on drugs?
No, I didn't read it yet. I'm sorry.
God, I mean, the guy is 2 inches from you with his whole big Cuban shirt getup. He just set it up.
I don't want to look Billy Corben in the eye.
It's in my rider. He can't look me in the eye.
Billy Corben is here today, and the reason he's in Tampa, I'm assuming, is because you're working on your next doc, which is about Macho Man, and there was a big Raw reunion last night at Amalie Arena, and you probably had an absolute golden corral full of content that you had to tape because all the boys are there.
It was crazy. We had a long day. We were in the arena from about 8:30 in the morning, right up until the Raw live broadcast began. It was a long day and an incredible roster of talent.
Now, when you do something like that, now obviously I'm one ahead because I want to talk about Magic City Hustle as well. And this is the doc that you're currently working on. It's a Macho Man documentary. And when you go into like an Amalie Arena or a controlled atmosphere where you're going to have a whole bunch of people to interview, does WWE work with you and give you like your own room, or like how does that go?
Oh yeah, they're incredibly helpful. We had the whole what are they? It was like the Chase Suite or something.
Oh, the Chase Suite, yeah,
the lounge, the Chase Lounge.
Yeah.
Oh, so that made for a great backdrop, did it not?
Yeah, because that part of the arena happened to be like behind the screen,
right?
In the that's where in
the gorilla position.
Exactly. So like we were able to just, it was open to the public once the doors opened,
right?
But there was nobody back there.
But all day, man, you just could get like 8-9 hours of before the doors opened of a phenomenal, like an arena type background, right?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was pretty beautiful.
What was the backdrop of, if you can give us a description?
The backdrop was just the Chase Lounge. So, but it was really just like the kind of the sloping windows on the exterior. Then we use the interior. It's very pretty. Like it has a lot of depth of field. Because it's very it's long and it curves. So it looked really beautiful. And we did a few setups because we did. Oh my God, I lost count.
How many? I mean, you probably interviewed all the old timers, did you not? Flair, Hogan.
Well, some of them we'd already interviewed. So we just did some of the guys that we had missed. Ted DiBiase, Shawn Michaels.
What'd Shawn say about Mach?
Booker T.
I think Shawn and Mach had heat, did they not?
Not really. Mostly they missed it. It's funny, when you Google their two names together, like the first article that comes up is called Missed Opportunities.
And those two didn't cross, did they?
Right. They fought once, I think, like in the UK, and it was great. And later on, Macho's brother Lanny had revealed.
You know the urban legend about Lanny, don't you?
I know a lot of urban legends about a lot of these guys.
I know, but like this. I'm pretty close to the industry. You know that,
Yes.
not necessarily in a good way at this point, but know that I am.
Wait, what industry are you close to in a good way at this point?
Not, you know what, Billy? That should be the new doc. What interested? Nothing. Zero. But Billy, the boys in the back, supposedly Lanny has a penis that he can take care of himself with. Did you know that? And he used to do it as part of a rib in the back for the boys.
Yeah, like.
Did you know that, Billy?
I didn't know.
God, you need to go do a couple retakes on Lanny.
I'm gonna have to. Lanny, one more question.
Are you
dude.
good, Billy?
I got one more.
Are you going to ask that, Billy?
I just got one. I already interviewed him. Where the hell have you been?
Billy, I know, but you guys can always do what do they call those, redos or reskins?
Reshoots.
Reshoot?
Yeah. We should hire you as a researcher for the reshoots.
I mean, like, listen, but I mean, would you have asked Billy? It is absolutely. In fact, if you would have asked all the boys that you interviewed, hey, what's the rib on Lanny? And they would have said, well, the rib is that he would go in the back of the boys in the locker room and show the boys that he could do this. And there was only one other guy that could do that, and it was Ted DiBiase's Virgil.
Wait.
Remember Virgil?
Yeah, but when you say rib, does that mean he had one removed or two removed?
No,
in order to do that, or
Yeah, rib,
I know.
Because that was a rumor about Marilyn Manson at one point.
I know. Yeah,
I met Marilyn Manson. Have you ever met Marilyn Manson, Billy?
not in person. No.
I met him a couple of years. I met him last year at Universal. I went to a concert over there. You didn't even know about that, did you, Tuttle?
No, I did not.
And I got a chance to meet him, and his real name's Brian, and he's really cool.
I've heard that.
He's really cool, very smart. So anyway, Billy, I don't know if you can do a reshoot and ask Lanny.
Lanny, one more question. Just one more thing.
Hey, Billy, how would you say it? I'm
more thing.
Lanny. You go ahead. Yeah. Yes. Yes, Billy.
Well, in the course of our interviews, we have to address a lot of rumors. That's not an uncommon thing.
Yeah.
To say, well, people have heard and the forums have buzzed for years, and Macho Man's one of those guys who didn't really have a very his whole life was in the public, but his private life was extremely private. And so a lot, when there is a lack of facts, usually the rumor machine kind of fills in the blanks, So when people have questions or if they don't get the answers.
So you can almost backfill some content with rumors.
Well, yeah, what you do is it's sort of, in a way, I guess, my cover or my runway to set up a potentially awkward question.
Right.
Meaning, it's like
like almost your segue into.
You're setting it up.
Yeah.
You're salting them up.
Your setup.
Yeah,
your setup.
It's my setup, but also
I got to feel you're a damn good setup guy. You're like a real shuckster kind of feel. Like you can get in. You can, Billy. I got a feeling you can get about any type of question in under the tricks that you pull sometimes.
I got to tell you,
you got the it factor.
I got to tell you, I always say I ask stupid questions for a living. That's basically what I do. And I guess there are certain techniques that you develop after 20 years of making documentaries that some better than others are more effective than others. But then every single person is different. I got to tell you, in this wrestling world, these are some pretty eccentric.
You should have let me consult on this, man.
And they're experienced though too.
But you got to work. You got to work them. They're like, listen, the pro wrestling industry it was a derivative of the carnies.
They're carnies, man.
The carnival workers.
Yeah.
In fact, their whole language, you know that.
Yeah.
And we know it. And but I'm just saying, it's a carnival type. Everything could be a work, but you can turn it into a shoot. And then sometimes a work will turn into a shoot. Sometimes a shoot can turn into a work. Everybody's kayfabing. You don't know if they're giving you the Office or they're giving you the Blue Jay.
He's using a lot of wrestling terms right now.
Oh, I thought these were porn terms.
No.
I was
No, like, Billy, do you know what the Office means if I give you the Office?
No.
See, you don't know.
That I don't know. I know kayfabe. I know work.
Kayfabe?
I know shoot. I know. Yeah, those I know.
Do you know rib?
You went deep. You went deep.
Oh, I went deep. Yeah. I mean, like, you can do a reverse end around, Shakespeare off, beg off. Be like, Billy, I needed to help you with this. No, it's whatever.
Yeah, no, totally. Listen, the first.
I'm sure I'll be fine without you.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, you might totally actually might be better without me.
I've gotten this far, but no,
And Billy, I hope you know I'm being a smart ass.
I know, no, and the first step in any cult is to invent a new language. That's the most important thing. Is that there's a language that can be spoken amongst the members,
boys.
if you will, exactly. And
You
so,
still didn't answer my question.
which part?
How would you ask Lanny if the question that Tuttle, you might even be able to Snopes it and say, what's the rumor about Macho Man's brother? Will you
right.
Google that?
Yeah, well.
How would you ask that question, Billy, being the absolute maestro of being able to get even uncomfortable questions in?
Well, at this point, I'd be like, so Lanny, I was on with Bubba.
No, keep my name
And
out
Bubba
of it.
said,
Gotta keep my name out of it, Lanny.
No, you
He'll never
definitely bring
know.
up Bubba's
He'll
name.
Lanny, you got to say, listen, Lanny, in the business, the boys have often said that there's this ongoing urban lore that you could accommodate yourself in the back, and the boys, you always put on a show for the boys.
Yeah, but why would they want to see that, though?
accommodate yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just leave it at that, Billy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's what all of us guys dream of, Billy.
Accommodate yourself. I like that. I'm going
Yeah.
to steal accommodate yourself. That's how, now I know how I do it. You should consult on this project.
Yeah, it Google's up. It says Lenny Popoff talks about his
Hold on,
party
look at
trick.
that. Hold on, do it again. I want him to know that this is a Googleable thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, it says Lenny Popoff talks about his party trick. When you go,
Popoff.
or Popoff. Sorry.
You sound like you're learning how to say Papa the first time.
I know.
So Billy, he can, he can do that to himself.
Wait a second. But not only who would want to see that, but who would want to do that to themselves?
Well,
I had never leave my house.
Why wouldn't you? Why would you ever want to go out with a girl? I mean, like, you wouldn't have to spend no money at all for nothing. That's the end game, isn't it? You give yourself a courtesy tap when you know when something's going to happen.
Wait. What does it say though?
Did he talk about it?
Yeah, hold on.
So Billy
it's like a
Corben,
web
you're going to have
form.
to admit if he has talked about this before, then indeed you should have maybe asked it.
Now here's the problem though.
That's hot, man. That really, I mean, that's
Here's
just
the problem.
It's on the
cocaine.
Reddit form, so it's way down here.
Right. So here's the problem. So it's for A&E.
Oh, okay. You didn't
Okay.
say that.
So-
God dang,
so
Billy. I
here's
thought
the-
I thought we were doing outlaw stuff
Well,
now.
here's the thing that no, what they're doing is, you remember A&E biography? Remember they had that series
Yeah.
biography?
You don't even have to say anything more.
Well, no, but they're bringing it back, but they're doing it in a cool way. They're doing it in a 30 for 30 style, where
Right.
instead of doing like a formula where every hour is exactly the same, they're extending them to 2 hours. So they're feature documentaries, and every single one.
Man, I don't even want to just stop right there. You got the A&N, you got the A&E money.
yeah,
buddy.
but it's not Lifetime, but it's A. it's A&E.
I mean, that's better than trying to shop a deal at the indie deal and working for a backside deal on 3 points on the backside of a deal.
But the problem is, I don't know that we could do a segment about accommodating
can't.
oneself.
I don't think you
because
can
of
on
the-
A&E.
Right, it's basic
You
cable.
just dropped the mic on my ass. Like,
Right.
I mean, like it's not even in play.
It's terrestrial radio. It's,
Yeah.
You're
Sorry.
your
Although,
hands are tied.
hold on, though. If Lanny was in here, I could ask that on terrestrial radio.
Oh, totally, you could.
Yeah,
and
I could. I'd be like, as long as I did it, I say, hey, you can't ask yourself, but you could say, hey, Lanny, I heard that you had a party trick that you could do A to B, and hopefully maybe some C will be coming around sometime soon.
Yeah.
Oh God! But I could ask the question. I just don't know if it would make the cut.
And it might. And hold on. Not only can you not ask the question because it might piss A&E off that you even asked the question,
no,
Billy.
I don't think it'll
Now,
be
when
You
you
don't
do-
think so?
No, they're cool.
How much do they trim when you give
Yeah, I was about-
when you give a network A&E? Well, like you're 30 for 30 with ESPN
Yeah.
and some of your more commercial network deal. Cocaine Cowboys, the topic in itself wasn't really edible. Like it probably somewhat, but will an A&E or a conservative ESPN, do they edit what you give them?
It's like a circumcision, just the foreskin. It's all right.
Not a lot.
A little bit. No. And well, we have a format. That's the thing. They give us what they call a clock. Like you have a
Right.
clock, you
Right.
know.
Well,
So
we don't have one. We don't go by one. But,
well, I mean, if you did,
Right.
or when you did,
Right.
And so they give us a clock, and so we know what the
plug. It's kind of a plug and play.
exactly. Well, it's a plug in. Listen, it's easier said than done.
Now, listen, I didn't mean that in a disrespectful way. See,
I
God
know.
dang, you thought
I know.
I don't know anything about the film business. If that might be like a real bad term.
No, I mean they give us we know the format, and so the question then becomes, what do we do creatively within that 7 to 8 minute segment or whatever it may be, 10 segments, 6 segments, depending on which network and which clock you're working with, and so you have standards and practices. Is the problem.
Trust.
There's the rub.
And then they have to vet it. And by the way,
Yes.
Billy Corben in the studio. We're going to eventually talk about his new documentary. It's called Magic City Hustle. It's about a collection of former University of Miami athletes, baseball and football, that are just regular dudes. One's selling ice cream. One's a reserve deputy. Just all different types. One guy drives an Uber. And he looks like he's Amish. And
How does he get his beard like that?
Billy, I liked that guy. I didn't like him at first, and then I got to like the guy. And the ice cream dude is the breakout star. I'm just telling you that right now.
Nate the Great.
Yeah, Nate the Great.
And Nate lost weight.
He
I just
did?
saw him. He's lost about 30, 35 pounds.
So
Yeah.
it's about a bunch of University of Miami guys who pick up the game of Alai. There was this casino, Magic City Casino, that used to have dog racing. Dog racing got, which that in itself, Billy.
Now, is it already gone?
Well, I think it's the end of this year. Don't you think that was kind of a goat rope deal where they outlawed dog racing?
Well, I got to tell you, the guys it used to be called Flagler Dog Track. The family that owns it, they were trying to get rid of dog racing for something like almost 8 years before the constitutional amendment.
And you even opened up with that, saying it was constantly declining, so they needed something.
Where did all the cocaine come from, though? I know that they were giving the dogs cocaine. Right?
Yes.
They were, Billy?
Yeah.
Big in Central Florida. Yeah, giving the Greyhounds cocaine to win races. Absolutely.
Seriously?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely. Cocaine Canines is my new one.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do.
Have you done that one yet?
No. We do mention it. They get a shout out in Magic City Hustle. We do shout out the Cocaine Canines, though.
Now, how much cocaine would they give? Was a lot of their supply going to the, listen, we got to do 3 keys over here, and then the dogs need a half a key.
I don't think dogs need a lot of cocaine. I do know that they drug test the dogs apparently before or after the races, and they found and there was specific, I think, trainers, that were the kind of bad actors that were doing it.
Do you know who's I'm not a good friend of mine now, but was a really, really, really close friend of mine. We used to hang out all the time when he was playing for the Buccaneers, and I know that you had him on Broke. Keith McCants was really, really close to me. And about, I forget how many years ago, we'd lost touch. You've been to Alabama and just...
Bubba bailed him out of jail one time.
I bailed him out of Pinellas County Jail one time.
I have no doubt about that.
And was he one of the, talking about ESPN?
And he skipped bail, by the way, too.
Yeah, he did. Was he one of the saddest ones? Keith?
He definitely was. And you could see it even in his body language, just the way he sat in the chair for the interview, kind of slumped over. But you have to remember, he was also in a lot of pain. And so he was self-medicating, which I think was the cause of a lot of his trouble. Football, for crying out loud, it has the shortest average career length. It has the highest rate of career-ending injuries.
And they're the one that doesn't guarantee their money.
And the lowest average salaries to boot, and without guaranteed contracts. So you're going to play 3.5 seasons on average in the game, and you're probably going to leave with a whole host of miserable, lifelong maladies and pains, and there's no coverage for that. And so a lot of guys hit the streets or the medicine cabinets of the pharmacies, and they start self-medicating. I think that's what happened with Keith and caused a lot of his trouble. But it was trouble from the jump with him because not just
because he hit his knee injury,
the knee injury, and then just. A lot of these guys are just a product of their environment. And when he first signed his contract,
that's when I started hanging out with him. And he bought a boat, and we had whores.
Didn't you buy an apartment for
Listen
him?
to this, Billy. He came to me and said, he was my boy, and he goes, "Here's $5,000 cash. I want you to go get pre-rent of an apartment over in St. Pete, a 3-bedroom apartment, pay a year's worth of rent, and find me a couple strippers to live there, and I'm going to swing by, once every couple weeks."
Well, that's the life.
Yeah, you gave me 5 G's cash, and then gave me enough money to furnish it, and then I think got in a fight with one of the strippers one night, and the cops came, and it was just it was crazy.
Isn't that how all these stories end, though?
Strippers and cops.
In a apartment in St. Pete that some NFL player is paying the rent on. But Keith, when he first signed his contract and out of Alabama, first round, it was a multi-million-dollar deal. In those days, it was probably $2-3 million or something like that, the signing bonus. And within days of that news breaking of the draft, his mom's house got burgled. They broke in the house, he says, probably looking for that cash, as if like
As if
the
they
NFL
send the cash to him.
right in a duffel bag under his mom's bed or something. Like so these guys have a target on their backs from the word go. You know, when you're in an industry, I mean, there's a reason why when you go to work in an office or for a company, they don't post everybody's salaries on the friggin' internet, man.
I know.
Can you imagine
in the break room?
Right? Can you imagine if everybody knew how much everybody else was making? It would be havoc, man.
right.
It would be havoc. So all
And here
these,
they do. They publish what these guys are making.
yeah, and you got a target on your back, and what's crazy about it, and what's really I think was revealing in my experience interviewing these guys in the doc is that it's not just the strangers that come out of the
It's
woodwork.
the family.
Oh, dude.
I had Warren
Brutal.
Sapp. I had Warren Sapp on the air one time, and he said, when he was a player, you know, making $6 million a year, he signed that big $36 million deal with.
Before he went bankrupt, you mean?
Yeah, and he said, every year that I was employed as a football player, I gained 2 or 3 family members that felt as if I needed to take care of them.
Yeah.
Uncles and aunts and cousins that wanted to make, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year taking care of my, my basketball court or whatever. And that's what happens with these people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like they get all these people that want to start a club and a car wash and a laundromat and all that deal.
Bernie Kosar said at some point when he sort of like took a moment, took stock, looked around, realized he was paying like 20, 25 cell phone bills.
Wow.
And he's like, he goes, okay, I got kids, I got a wife, I got like, how many cell phone bills could I possibly be paying? How many private school tuition payments could I possibly be making? And how many,
Does he still got money, Billy?
well, he declared bankruptcy. Right around the time, actually, we were shooting the first documentary. So right around 2008, 2009, 2009, I think it was.
I think it's ready for a broke too, don't you think?
Unfortunately, yeah. I think the great moment in the experience of making that documentary was when it first premiered in 2012.
I think it's a franchise you can keep going back to every 10 years.
Unfortunately, it seems to be an evergreen. And it was the only one of the 30 for 30s, I think, that was a call to action to where people could be like, oh, this is a problem that we could deal with now. It's not just some great story that happened 20 years
actually,
ago, 30 years
the
ago.
NFL should use it as a tool.
They do.
Like they should be like, they have some courses for that the oncoming, guys.
Yeah.
They should be like, you know what? Everybody needs to watch. Sit them in a room, and you guys need to watch Billy Corben's Broke.
I know there's a lot of in some of the kind of incoming, for freshmen NFL classes, the union does that a bit. There's a lot of colleges who have started to show it to their
Billy,
players.
a topic I would love for you to tackle. I think just because I know how you make, your documentaries. If you're a fan of Billy Corben's, you can see the similarities of Cocaine Cowboys. You can see the similarities of Broke. You can see the similarities of Screwball, how you open up Magic City Hustle. Like you kind of have a rhyme to your reason a little bit. And I would love your take on college recruiting in the big business and how shady and underhanded. It started with SMU getting busted, and then, but now Clemson and Alabama on the football deal, and just the deals and the alumni and the amount of money Nick Saban makes. Don't you think that might be a good topic?
Yeah, I think in too many states in the union, the highest paid employee by the state
Is the football coach.
is the football coach of one of the flagship
So
state
the governor
schools.
make like $466,000, and Nick Saban makes $9.5 million for Alabama, right?
Supply and demand, baby. Supply and demand. It's
Don't
the
you
free
think-
market.
But I know a guy that's in the Division I football program of a major university. I'm just going to say that, okay? He's a coach for a major university, and he's like, recruiting now is big business because you got to get the best athletes because of the TV contracts.
Yeah.
And like Notre Dame can't go 7-5. There's hundreds of millions of dollars of swing when Notre Dame makes a bowl game versus goes 7-5, and so that relies on getting the best athletes. And the way you get the best athletes now isn't Notre Dame for years had we're on NBC public, we had a television deal. That doesn't mean anything now because everybody can find every game. But what does mean something now is where they live, how they eat,
The weather.
the type. There's universities that my friend said that, they have their own private masseuses. They have their own barbershops. They have the girls and guys that do their nails. They get facials. They get tanning. They have nutritional plans.
They get facials, but enough about Lanny.
But so, don't you think that the college recruiting probably is about as salacious? You might get killed for that, though, Billy. University of Miami might have a big time. Luke might come kill you if you do that. Do you know Luke real well?
I do know Luke real well. Yeah, we get along pretty well sometimes.
I've had him on my show a lot.
He's my favorite uncle.
He got completely railroaded, did he not? I mean, the way the government tried it, was it Tipper Gore?
And Broward County, the Broward County Sheriff, Nick Navarro, and they literally, we dip in the archives a lot for the documentary projects that we're researching, and years ago we found just the most amazing footage. So the Broward County Sheriff, when they did these sting operations, undercover sting operations back in the late 80s, early 90s, where they would go to a record store and they would see if the clerk there, the owner, would sell them
a 2 Live Crew deal?
A 2 Live Crew, right. And if he or she did, they put them in handcuffs.
Oh, man.
And they'd arrest the clerk or the owner of a record shop for selling them, quote, obscene material.
Can you imagine how uptight we were back then, Billy?
We weren't, though. We really weren't, because, you remember, Luke won, of course, that landmark First Amendment case, but we really weren't. It was just a few crazy people who, like the sheriff, Nick Navarro.
You mean like Twitter? Like Twitter?
May he rest in peace. Well, that's more than a few crazy people on Twitter. So
Nick Navarro, he's got a hair up his ass, and a couple others, and then they completely wreak havoc on Luke, nationally and locally.
Absolutely, but you listen. I mean, it's one of those things where eventually things worked out. The system worked, and he was exonerated, and of course, but you had.
I don't believe in the system, though, Billy. The system's really screwing me right now.
The system's really screwing everybody right now. What are you talking about?
You seem to be pretty much on top. Big A&E deal, ESPN at your beckoning call.
I don't know about that, but you are. I want you to know, you said so many nice things about me. I want to say something nice about you. You are my second favorite radio host after Dan LeBatard. I just want to.
You son of a bitch.
From the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of my corazon, I want you to know.
Speaking of which, I want to get into that a little bit.
Oh,
but it's going to be a segment in itself. Oh yeah, I think. And Tuttle, can't you tell we've had hundreds, if not thousands, of guests from all spectrums, and when a guy has the it factor like Billy, and he cuts through, isn't it? God, it's just so
refreshing.
So refreshing.
Yeah,
Billy, you little short sawed off son of a bitch, you really got the it factor. You really do, buddy.
You're a real flatterer. I appreciate that. And I don't know what that means. I don't even know if I should take it as a compliment. I'm not really sure.
You should, because I think you pretty much kick ass, Billy.
Oh, thank you.
How old are you, Billy?
Thank you. I'm 41 now.
41.
I just turned 41 July 5th.
God, it makes me feel so unfulfilled in my life.
It does.
To see him.
This
and
guy's
I'm only
12 years younger than me,
yeah,
and he is just straight killing it.
I'm 2 years younger, and he's like
son of a
directing
bitch.
films.
Here you are. You have risen to the middle of the radio
No, I'm
industry
just the
here in
last
Tampa,
man standing.
Florida.
Everybody else has left the show.
Yeah, we've not risen to the middle of nothing. We're the sludge that's left in the sewage. When they suck out the liquid, we're that sludge down below that
We're
doesn't
the
even
rats of
we don't even
media.
get sucked. We just gotta lay there in our stench.
You don't even get sucked, but enough about Lanny.
Yeah.
Like, I know that it's Illinois, but I like to say Illinois because it really pisses people off.
Right.
I know that it's Des Moines, but I like to say Des Moines.
Yeah, I know.
Just further accentuating my hillbilly Indiana white trash.
I know it's pronounced Miami, but I say Miami. It's the same thing.
Screw you. Hey, Tuttle, I find myself being like, I think Billy Corben and Billy, I hope I haven't misread this situation where you really hate me, but I think we could hang out and drink a few beers together and really tell some good stories.
Yeah. Bubba's going to be my valet on this Macho Man project, I think.
I should have been. I will tell you this.
You'll be my Miss Elizabeth.
I had to beg him, Tuttle, to eat a Mike's 8-inch Italian Fabrizi. I had to say, listen, Billy. He's like, oh, no, for breakfast. I'm like, listen, I'm not. Yeah. You need to eat this. It's really good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And it is the mouth explosion that we explained, isn't it,
But
Billy?
enough about Lanny. Sorry.
Billy, you should do radio. You should do radio,
Yeah, have you
Billy.
ever thought about that?
Have you ever thought about a podcast or anything?
I had thought about it. I thought it'd be fun, but we're so busy. Yeah, and like yesterday.
Radio's for losers that have a lot of time.
Billy can't afford the pay cut.
Yeah. Billy, radio's for guys that are not busy. You know, you're busy. You actually have a career.
Here's the thing, though. I grew up in Miami in the golden age of talk radio down there.
Neil Rogers.
Bill Hendry at his peak in those days. I mean, just starting out doing the voices.
Old Ron and Captain Jim or something like that.
Paul and Young Ron.
Yeah.
Now, do you remember?
Rick and Suds.
I remember back in the day, I was in Miami one time, and I remember the famous. What was the deal between Brian Cox and Phil Hendry? Wasn't there like a lawsuit or something going on at one time over a skit or something that they did back in the day?
Well, Brian Cox said, if I remember correctly,
from Miami, right?
Yeah.
Yes, was in the locker room. He just hated 610 WIOD, the radio station they were all on at the time. Just hated them. And I think between Phil and Neil, they were just talking a lot of trash about the Dolphins. Because let's face it, they sucked. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm speaking in the past tense.
They still suck.
They present tense.
They got Fitzgerald. What is it? What's the guy's name that threw? Was it
Fitzpatrick.
Yeah. They picked him up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but boo.
Billy,
I'm going to start holding my breath right now.
Billy, did the Dolphins play where you showed the University of Miami and FIU game? Is that where the Dolphins play?
Oh, hell yeah. The Orange Bowl. Well, they used to play at the Orange Bowl. Now they play,
the Hard Rock Stadium, right?
We call it Joe Robbie Stadium. He was the owner of the Dolphins who built that stadium with his own money.
But have they remodeled it?
Oh, hell yeah.
Because it looked like they kind of made it smaller and made it more intimate, and it looked like a really neat. I've not seen it.
Well, they put a roof over it, didn't they?
Well, they put a partial, a canopy, I think they call it. There's
like a
canopy.
cowboy dome kind of deal?
Yeah, not even. It's just a canopy that goes over sort of the outer edges of the stadium.
So they white trashed it up a little bit.
Well, and then they did make it, to your point, a little bit more intimate, because one of the problems was, back in the Orange Bowl in the old days, I mean, if you were sitting in the front row,
it's hot.
you could like touch the top of the helmets of the players, or like pat them on the back of the jersey. And in Joe Robbie Stadium, or what's now Hard Rock, it wasn't very intimate. You were so far away from the action, so they did move the seats. They got rid of some of the seats in the upper decks, and they added some seats around the field so you could be a little bit closer, a little bit tighter in with the action. They spent something like $300-400 million on the renovation. They added some local restaurants, into the concessions, which is pretty cool.
Kind of like a modern flare it up a little bit.
Yeah, it is a better venue. The problem is getting in and out of there is just a total.
How about
nightmare.
the Marlins Stadium? Is that a joke
Yeah.
too?
Oh,
Isn't it in a bad part of town?
No, not at all. It's in Little Havana. It's in a great. It's right. It's
where the Orange Bowl used to be.
It's right now. It's the lot. And they knocked the Orange Bowl down and built it basically next door in the lot next door.
Now I got to ask you. You've always been anti.
By the way, Billy Corben on the phone in the air.
You've always been anti-taxpayers helping billionaires out with their stadiums and stuff. And now we're going through that here in Tampa right now with the Rays. With the Rays is one of the big things, because everybody.
How do you feel about big time producers helping your favorite radio guy out? Are you anti that too?
I'm big on trickle down economics.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Toe.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. So are you against the Rays deal? I mean, that's why the Rays deal isn't getting done, Tuttle, right? Because there's no public dollars in the deal.
No, there's not.
There shouldn't be any public dollars in the deal. We don't do welfare for billionaires, or I'm sorry, we do welfare for billionaires, and that's exactly why we're in the situation that we're in. The idea,
and then the team holds you hostage, and then they leave.
Well, the idea that the richest country in the world could help the poor, the middle class, we call that socialism. But yet, when we steal from the poor and middle class and give to the rich, we call that capitalism. That ain't right. That's not the right thing to do. And I think you'll ask anybody in MLB, they'll tell you that the biggest mistake Major League Baseball ever made was actually bringing franchises to the state of Florida. Because you'll remember, Florida used to be the stalking horse, which in step one in the extortion process of Major League Baseball
is to have a player.
Is to threaten to leave, right? And they always used to say, we'll take the team to Florida. We'll take the team to Florida. Because there was spring training, but there was no baseball. There was no franchises in Florida.
So they needed the Florida to always be that stalking horse.
Exactly. And then they
be able to get people scared.
And then they blew it. They brought they destroyed baseball in Montreal. They brought the Marlins, they handed the Marlins over to these con men, Jeff Lurie and David Sampson. They started the Tampa Bay team. I'm sorry, didn't you guys build a stadium for no team.
They built
you built a
an
stadium
all-purpose dinosaur for nobody.
just to try to attract.
That's how stupid we are down here.
That,
Something in the water, Billy. I'm drinking it too.
Tampa is the Florida of Florida, as my friend as my friend Mike Lawrence likes to say.
We are kind of the butthole of Florida, are we not?
No, not the butthole. I think it's really, I think it's very beautiful here, but there's something so uniquely and distinctly Florida about Tampa.
What would you say is the butthole of Florida?
Oh,
nobody's even ever asked you that before.
Pasco County.
No, not necessarily county, but like of all the big cities. So if you have like Tallahassee, Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, Fort Myers, Miami, the Keys,
Orlando. You know what? I was born in Lee County. I was born in Fort Myers. That's got to rank way up there on the butthole scale, I would think.
By the way, the next Billy Corben documentary will be Fort Myers, the butthole of Florida.
Dude,
that will be the next one.
Fort Myers is quintessential, though, because it's all lies that came true. It's the quintessential Miami or Florida hustle, real estate hustle story. You know, my grandpa was in the real estate business there when I was born in '78, and it was straight. Before that, it was swampland, and it was the classic. $20 down, $20
so the people couldn't afford to be in Miami, could just go over to here, and it's just a little bit of ways.
Yeah, and
you're on the coast,
and it really wasn't much of a place yet, but they were still selling left and right. It's the Florida dream.
That's how a lot of Florida was built.
Yeah, we sell the Florida dream. We have no indigenous industry. We just sell the sunshine, and so people are willing to pay whatever they can for a taste of it, for a piece of it, and that's our hustle here. We have no state income tax. We have very little indigenous industry.
Well, the ice cream guy kind of got into that at the opening of Magic City Hustle, and the fact that he's like, listen, people that live in Florida or people that live in Miami, people that visit Miami and come to Miami, they have this, but when you live down here, we don't care about the weather. We don't care about the weather at all. That's what the ice cream guy said.
Dude, that was a slick segue to promote my movie. I'm really impressed. You're good at this radio thing, dude.
Oh man, thank you, Billy.
You're damn good at this.
Only like a quarter as good as you are at movies. My Lord, I bet you've made a lot of money.
Dude, yeah, that's what it's all about.
I did call you one time and you were on a boat. You want
to make money, you go into the documentary business. Isn't that what everybody says? Is that what Spielberg says?
No, but I will tell you this though. You probably are doing really well compared to when you first. What was your very first one? Wasn't it
Raw Deal?
I was going to say I had it.
It was Raw Deal, A Question of Consent. It was about the alleged sexual assault of an exotic dancer at the Delta Chi fraternity house at the University of Florida.
That was your first one.
That was our very first documentary.
And that one actually did. Not actually, and but it did for being your very first one. Didn't that kind of set up Cocaine Cowboys and things?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we went to Sundance Film Festival with it, so that was a big deal we were at the time. We were the youngest filmmakers in the history of Sundance, so that was pretty badass, and that really did.
How old were you guys?
We were 20. We were we were 21
wow.
when we made the movie, and I think 22 by the time we got to Sundance. It took a year to make, and I got to tell you, that was I spent some time in Gainesville. That was rough. That's on the butthole meter is pretty high up there too.
What is your favorite? I mean, everything from your 30 for 30 shorts. Dogfight. I'm just trying to think all the ones that I've seen.
I do want to respond to this thing that you said though a moment ago about are we doing better now? I think we're doing. I think economically we're doing better. I think we're doing our best work now, which I'll answer that question you said about what is my favorite. But then I will also say that I make a living. It's not the best living; it's a good living doing something that I love in America in 2019. And I don't think I have any right to complain about
and
anything.
There's probably a lot of guys who went to high school that are 9-to-5 guys, miserable. Not getting to do what this is truly what you love, and you've been able to make a good living at it.
And I also was very lucky to go to New World School of the Arts High School in Miami, where I graduated and attended class with some of the most talented people literally in the world, including Oscar winners and Tony winners and Emmy winners. And so I've got a lot of friends in high school who are actually doing really well in their passion and doing what they love. And then there's some that maybe aren't so happy about their lives and careers. But I'm very happy about my life and career. And you say, what's your favorite, Doc? I mean, that's like, what do I say? I got in trouble for saying this once. And I didn't think it's that big of a deal. But I think it's when you make movies or documentaries, they're like children. You have a favorite. You just don't tell anybody which one it is. But I'm very candid about this now. My favorite and least favorite documentaries that we've made. My favorite
You're
now.
the boss. You can say what you want.
Well, listen. It doesn't matter what I think. Ultimately, it's in the eye of the beholder. Meaning, it's
I mean, you might get a few people troll you today because when you say that you love you love cocaine Cowboys, but you hate Limelight, then there's gonna be some Limelighters that that kill you.
I don't like Broke. Broke is my least favorite of the documentaries that we've made.
Oh no, see, that's one of my favorites.
And see, listen, I love that, and that's true of a lot of people. And again, that's why I say it's not up to me; it's up to the audience. We make these things and then we put them out into the world.
Can I tell you why Broke isn't your favorite?
Yeah.
Can I predict why?
Yeah.
Because it was heavily regimented by ESPN and formatted, and you probably you didn't get to really put your artistic spin on it the way you wanted to because it was a big network deal. Am I kind of right?
You're half right.
Okay.
For sure. Which when you're grading on a Florida public schools curve is like a C+, B minus.
Yeah, and
a 50%.
Yeah.
A 50% is about a B minus.
Yeah, but where I come from, Warsaw, Indiana, white trash. That's like a B plus.
Oh, well, that's it. Mazel tov. You're head of the class.
So what was the other factor?
No, listen. That was definitely a factor. There's no question about that. The other factor is it was my fault. It was just my failing as a filmmaker and a storyteller in that it wasn't about the people. It was about the problem. So there wasn't a real story there. It was just kind of the arc was, it was a kind of a scared straight thing, step by step, how to go broke. So I think it had its merits, and the response to it was phenomenal. And to this day, I'm impressed how often it comes up and how many people really love it. And not surprised, but impressed and really
Can
heartened by it. But for me, just like I feel it's where I dropped the ball as a filmmaker.
Can I tell you my second favorite?
Yeah.
Screwball.
Screwball's my first favorite.
See that? Oh, okay. Screwball, can we talk about where it's going to be distributed or no? I didn't know.
Not yet.
Okay.
I can't.
But it's going to be available on a very popular scenario.
But it is available right now. iTunes and Amazon Prime and anywhere you stream stuff, it's available now.
But soon it's going to be available other places too.
Yes.
Can we say that at least?
We can say that
very
at least.
popular places?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
I love the idea of using the kids. So, I mean,
that by
was
far, Billy, I think when I had you on the phone, when I had you on the phone, I said, that is, who thought of that?
Me and Whiskey thought of it.
Drunk.
They say write drunk, edit sober. So we were brainstorming. The challenge that we had with this documentary, which is we had a lot of great interviews. We knew it was funny. We already called it Screwball, meaning we that was our take on it. Was this like Elmore Leonard, Carl Hyacin-esque, Coen Brothers-esque kind of take? And so we wanted to keep in that spirit, in that tone of it being a documentary comedy, basically. And so
a docu-com kind of,
docu-com,
right?
Exactly. That's a great term. I'm going to steal that.
No problem.
So,
well, you can get richer and I'll get poorer. I got some good ideas.
That's how it goes, bro. So the rich get richer. So we had a challenge, which is that this wasn't about sports. It wasn't about baseball. Yeah, A-Rod was a big part of it. Manny Ramirez, a bunch of these famous players who had done steroids with this fake doctor. I'm sorry, unlicensed physician, Tony Bosch in Miami, and in this storefront, strip mall clinic. But there was no footage. I think we talked about this last time. When you do a sports documentary, I'll use your term plug and play. It's a pretty simple concept. You interview the sports guys, you get the sports footage, and you put the sports footage on top of the sports guys talking about the sports.
Like when they did a documentary on Bill Buckner's, the one that went between his legs. Well, you just went and found that footage, and you found the stuff, and
that's it.
Then you plugged and played it,
and you talk about it, and then you show it, and they talk about it, and they show it, and it's
people break it down 10 ways, and then you yippee-yo.
You got interviews, you got B-roll, you got the A-roll is the interviews, and then you put the footage on top of it that supports what they're talking about. It's here though there wasn't any sports footage. I think they mentioned 3 games. Like they just mentioned them in passing. So we don't really open them up. You make the U about the University of Miami football program, and they're talking about, seasons of games and, countless bowl games and championships and regular season games and FSU rivalry. So you show highlights and a lot of game footage, and it makes the job a little bit more straightforward. Not easier, but more straightforward. The formula, how it's supposed to work. So this was just tougher. We had a bunch of guys telling these hilarious stories about shady crap that went down in this clinic in sports bars, in hotel rooms, in locker rooms, in nightclubs.
Hotel rooms.
Yeah, nightclubs where there is no footage. There is no like art news archive or B-roll or game footage. So we knew we needed to do recreations or reenactments.
Right.
And it's tough, man, in docs. A lot of people try to do it in a lot of creative ways.
And it looks dumb usually.
Sometimes they pull it off. Sometimes, to borrow your term, it looks dumb. And
Yeah.
Well,
because you usually cannot use you can't use the subjects that you're making the film about. Like you can't get a hold of A-Rod and say, hey, A-Rod, can we film you recreate and shoot your ass full of some test at White Sox Stadium back in 2010? Yeah. Sure. Let me go ahead and get a 23 gauge and let you shoot my ass and take pictures of it.
Well, interestingly enough, the first time that Tony Bosch, the steroid dude, met A-Rod, who became, of course, his highest profile client, was at a hotel in Tampa. And we just, and I haven't been able to, I meant to follow up with Tony and ask which hotel. He said it was a boutique hotel in Tampa. So I think Alex was here. I think they were
spring
playing.
Training.
I don't know if it was spring training or
the Rays.
Or they're playing the Rays.
Right.
Yeah. And so, but that was the fateful meeting. First meeting took place right here.
I
in
liked
Tampa.
when you showed A-Rod's apartment. And it was all white, and he had pictures of himself.
Him as a centaur?
And he had him as a centaur, and then he had like 9 or 10 TVs, and they all had highlights of him. Is that true?
That is how Tony described the apartment and other people who have been there. For a while, it was this apocryphal tale that Alex had at least one painting of his face on the body of a centaur. And so, but that is like, it's like part of the mythology of Alex, but I have independently verified it from so many people who have been in his homes. And so we kind of steered into that curve because it is a comedy, and
now,
we recreated the centaur painting.
How pissed off and what did he do with regards to A-Rod? Because, I mean, Screwball he's kind of the main subject, him and the Bosch guy. And did he, you know how shady he is, and he sends people down to do A, B, and C, and D.
He had a crew.
Did any of that happen? Because, you exposed the crew, so to speak, Billy.
Yeah, but, we do documentaries that are historic in many ways. So they happen years earlier, in some cases decades earlier. So a lot of the wounds, even though we may pick at the scabs, a lot of the wounds have healed. And so I think, and Alex, in case you haven't noticed, has grown like a chia pet, a sense of humor somehow, some self-awareness. I don't know if it's an act or he's genuinely, since he retired from the game a little bit.
J-Lo
whipped him into shape.
Yeah.
She said, if you're going to have this big ass booty and this hotness, you're going to have to, take the centaur pick down, buddy.
Well, I have one of my own that we recreated for the doc.
You got a Billy Corben centaur?
Well, we have the one from the documentary that we made. We made one for the recreations,
right?
And so I have it now, and I'm very proud.
So
of it.
with regards to Screwball being available at other places, when does that date come? Do you know?
Next month, August.
Can we have you back? Obviously on the phone, but can we have you back on the eve of when it gets dropped? Because I had you on when it first came out.
Oh hell yes!
But this is kind of a big deal, and it's a great distribution method as well. It's very, people know what they'll certainly know how to find it. I loved Screwball.
Thank you.
Billy Corben in the studio, Miami guy. He just, done everything that he's done has been really done well. Cocaine Cowboys 1 and 2, broke. Did a bunch of 30-30 shorts. The U. I think you did a U2 too, didn't you?
Yeah,
the U2.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That is, who said? Was that Dion that said that, or was that Michael Irvin that said that?
I don't know.
I had Michael Irvin and Dion on one show one time back in the day.
Oh, that had to have been a blast.
Oh, it was when they both played for the Cowboys. Dion and I are real close, and I flew out. Dion flew me out to Dallas for the 1996 Packer Dallas Cowboy NFC Championship game, and I stayed at Dion's. And one of the best stories ever, Billy, was I was in the VIP room with Dion at Primetime 21's. It was a nightclub, and MC Hammer was supposed to perform. And it was me and Big Cat Williams and Michael Irvin and Emmett Smith and Deion Sanders, and MC Hammer no-showed. And Deion was mad as hell. And then Jason Kidd rolled in because he played for the Mavericks at the time. Well, I'm not going to mention, it wasn't Dion. I'll just say that it was not Dion that said these words, but it could have been one of the other guys I mentioned. So Jason Kidd rolls into the VIP room, and one of the fellow guys say, Jason Kidd, the guy that's running up ass here in Dallas. I call a bitch up and she used to be $600. Now they're saying, Jason Kidd bought me a Mercedes, such and such. I ain't coming over to your house. And they kicked him out of the VIP room because he was running the price of ass up in Dallas. Oh. And I'm not going to tell you who it was, but you probably can guess.
I can probably guess. I will tell you that for a while when we first made Cocaine Cowboys, people thought it was about the Dallas Cowboys. Of the 1980s.
Remember, wasn't it Hollywood Henderson that got busted for cocaine, and didn't Mercury Morris from the Dolphins get busted?
Dolphins, he did. I think he's a preacher now.
Didn't he spend I don't know how many years in prison?
I don't think he spent that much time, did he? I don't think he did a lot of time.
Is Dan Marino broke?
Oh, I don't think so.
Hell no.
No, somebody said Dan Marino was broke.
No.
Not that I'm aware of. No.
How about Kozar?
Well, Kozar declared bankruptcy, filed for bankruptcy in 2009. So
did he leave Cleveland as a full-blown alcoholic and had a bunch of issues and stuff like that?
He had a lot. Listen, he had a lot of issues, and he had a lot of predatory family around him. As all these,
23 cell phone bills.
Yeah, as all these guys do. One of the craziest stories that I think really coalesces all this whole idea about you got to watch out for your own family is that he discovered. So when he graduated from the University of Miami, and his dad essentially kind of delivered him to Cleveland. To the hometown team, basically, because he's from Ohio, of course, and just outside of Cleveland. And his dad was classic, mill worker guy, who got laid off when the factory closed. I mean, just a classic, tragic, American Midwestern
blue collar,
story. Absolutely,
man's man, hardworking kind of guy.
Absolutely, and now he's got a gravy train, in his son, and so he. The way Bernie tells it is that he goes and plays for the Browns, and at some point pretty late in the game, I'm not sure how late, and Bernie's like, I don't know if I didn't want to know or if I just kind of looked the other way or it was totally kept away from me. I was totally kept in the dark about it. He goes, but he discovered many years later that when he signed with the Browns, his dad got a $1 million signing bonus.
What?
His dad, that was paid out, and he said it was paid out over the course of like the contract, quarterly or however often.
Right.
His dad got a check, and he said, I just knew that my dad wasn't asking me for money anymore, so I was happy, and I was happy for him and happy for the family. So, and it turns out that at the end of his dad's $1 million contract with the Browns, which, by the way, as far as I'm concerned, that's Bernie's money, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Meaning,
yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
If they were willing to pay $1 million to his dad, they were willing to pay $1 million more for Bernie is the bottom line.
Right.
And
get more for their money.
Not to mention that maybe his dad got a commission, because I think his dad was like his manager or whatever, on Bernie's salary to boot. And then he noticed at some point that his dad started asking for money again. And later on, when he found out about the contract, he put two and two together and realized, oh, that's when the Browns were done paying my dad out on his deal.
Did he get heat with his dad?
And that's screwed. Well, listen, I think he's had issues, with his family through the years. He's been very candid about it. Some of it's been very public. But I mean, I think he was just, he said it in the documentary. He was just happy that his dad was happy. He was happy that his dad.
That's a pretty good guy. A lot of people would be like, my dad's a dick. And, Bernie was like, I'm just glad his hand wasn't out for that many years on me, because I would have had to pay for it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, his dad's pretty slick, is he not?
Yeah, I'm in the wrong line of work.
So anyway, I thought, Billy Corben.
I need to go have a football player.
Yeah.
How many kids you got, Billy?
None.
You need to start making some kids.
That's what I need to start doing.
Yeah.
My gravy train, right?
No.
I don't know what your genetics would maybe produce. Maybe, I don't know. God, I don't even know.
I get a little baby Bubba.
Yeah, I don't know if he'd be a pro football player, though. He might,
No, he would not. More likely a Moyle.
Yeah.
All right, listen, Billy. I would like now, if in interviewing 101, I don't know if it's cool to play the trailer or not for the said movie that we're promoting.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
people on Twitch can see it.
And I will tell you,
I would like to.
Please do. And other than Screwball, I think this is my favorite piece. Someone said to me, it is the most Miami thing you've ever done, which is quite a compliment.
Just on the trailer alone.
I think
Hold on, let me see her.
Miami a hustle city, man. Everybody got more than one gig. I sell ice cream, ready selling CDs. One stop, boy, $20.
There is one of your breakout stars on this deal. I'm just telling you right now, Billy, this guy's got the it factor, the ice cream man, don't you think?
Nate the Great.
Yeah.
Nate the
I
Great.
have a security company, a beauty salon.
I've been doing music for a very long
By
time.
the way, this guy's jacked up. This guy's jacked, isn't he?
When I was done being an NFL player, I was able to become a police officer, an actor too as well, and model.
I'm not your neighborhood Uber driver. I do luxury. And then I have another job. I play highlight.
We in the house.
Yeah, I was watching when those guys were doing the six-pack off, and I was like, oh, my God. Just genetics, these guys. And then Kenny said, those guys like to eat weights. Remember?
Because Kenny's
Kenny said, I like to eat-
skinny guy, yeah.
Kenny said, they ain't smooth. They can't anticipate nothing. They like to eat weights. You know what? I love Kenny. Is he quite the character or what, Billy?
The legend? Is that the
Kenny,
one?
yeah.
Now,
Oh, yeah.
He was absolutely, that accident he had where he ran into that brick wall was brutal.
Yeah.
It was absolutely like it almost ended his career.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of that guy from this doc, though. I'm telling you that.
Yeah, Kenny
He was the greatest guy out of him.
Kenny was a quarterback at the University of Miami, and he got signed, I think, with Tampa.
It was the Rays. It was Rays.
Yeah, with the Rays, and he was at UM as a quarterback in the football team, but he was a professional baseball player in the minors. And so what sucked about that is that he wasn't training with the football team over the summer because he was on the road playing.
ball.
So he had money, but then Butch Davis, the coach of the Hurricanes at the time, said, man, you got to make a decision here. I need my quarterback with us training for the summer. You can't be on the road playing baseball. You got to make a decision. And he had a daughter at the time, and he said, I got to go make that money. And
Say with the Rays, isn't he?
yeah, and Kenny is, and then he had that incident where they were playing at some ballpark where he didn't go out and touch the wall before the game. So
he thought it was wood.
He thought there'd be give on the back wall, right? So he runs out to get catch this pop fly and runs head first, full speed into the back wall, which turned out to be like
It's brick.
Painted green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a wood wall, and there was no give, man. He just fell. He went timber backwards and really messed himself up.
We were looking to
You got to throw the cocaine Cowboys and the U in there, don't you, buddy?
You're welcome.
Got to.
transition from dog racing to highlight. I went to the university. I said, listen, I have this crazy idea. Do you think we could send something out to all the ex-athletes for the last 20 years and say, we're looking to hire and train highlight players?
When I first got the email, I thought it was pranking me.
I was like, what? I need some clarity on this.
I went on YouTube and I Googled highlight.
I was like,
And that's what everybody says, too.
They paying us, man, and we can win big money.
So I'm like, okay, let me see what this is all about.
That's what you gotta do. Get some money.
The players taking the court are all athletes you may recognize.
Baseball, football, track and field.
If it's no contact in this sport, it's gonna be a piece of cake.
I came to watch you to laugh.
We knew going in.
LT.
Yeah,
He
it was
is
funny
a
when
character,
it was
man.
funny when he went to Nate the Great and
Yep.
he said the only thing you're killing is to cook. Which was like one of my favorite lines.
Man, they're not going to be great.
LT, man. Billy, one of the all-time greatest, isn't he? Oh, I've seen a bunch of documentaries about him.
He walked in. I was like, "Holy crap! Go
LT.
film him! Go film him!" And he went
Yeah.
into the locker room to talk with the guys, give him motivation. But he knew. See, he knew going in. He was buddies with Coach Leon, the dude you see there. Coach Leon was one of the only African American players in the history of the game. Yeah, highlight players in the history of the game. So
And LT knew him.
They're golf buddies. So he brings LT, but LT got a warning about these guys.
Giving a heads up on the deal.
A heads up that like they were the world's worst highlight players.
I met LT one time at a golf deal, and I didn't realize how big he was.
Oh, he's a big dude.
Like, he's a big guy. He
Still.
was a big. You realize linebacker isn't that he was a big dude.
Still a big dude.
Still.
First day.
If you're going to come into the sport, you got to be dedicated.
Really like the Jamaicans with the
Bobsled team.
It's a lot of crime rate around here. That's why I always keep the Uzi with me.
Now, was Nate the Great? Was he a drug dealer? I mean, I had my doubts about him. Like, he seemed a little shady. Like he could be dealing
Billy ain't
drugs
gonna
out of the
out him
back
out,
of an
man.
ice cream truck. Well, he's carrying a goddamn Uzi in the back of his
I
van.
went.
Billy's
with
got to
him.
be able to get a sack later today.
I went with him on the ice cream truck. I mean, he's quite the hustler. I mean, the
Okay,
guy's
all
out
right.
there slinging
So
ice cream.
Yeah, all right.
The work,
With an Uzi.
Division I sport, and then I had a child on the way, so I dropped out.
First time getting arrested was possession with intent to sell.
That was one of my favorite
Crack
characters,
era
too.
was tough. Sports in general was a way out of our environment.
It's really game time now, man.
Billy, was it that guy with the feathered back hair whose initial idea was, okay, we got to do a highlight deal here in July.
Yeah.
Who do we get to be the highlight? Was it that guy's
Yes,
idea?
it was his idea. And that's what we call a Magic City hustle. Because this is a hustle for everybody. It's a hustle for the players. It's a hustle for the casino. Because they need they need to maintain some, their pari-mutuel in order to keep their casino slot license and poker
and the
license.
slot's the only thing that keeps the lights on.
The only thing, man.
And so they have to have highlight, or you can't have slots.
Originally, they had to have the Greyhounds, but then they
Right.
got rid of the Greyhounds and they brought in highlight, and they have to maintain that in order. So it's a loss leader. They have to lose money in order to make the money on the slots and the poker. For a while in Ocala, man, they just had two dudes throwing a ball against a wall to do the bare minimum required by the state of Florida in order to keep. It's such a stupid thing, too.
So they're saying like they didn't need in Ocala just in order to be able to keep the slots and the things that keep alive.
Can you
they
imagine
had two dudes just throwing the thing against the thing?
To do the minimum number of games the state requires. Can you imagine the state comes to you and says, listen, in order for you to go into this business that the market loves, poker, casino, slots, in order that makes money and that the market loves, you have to lose $5 million a year on Greyhounds or highlight, or that's what the state of Florida does. They require them to. They don't let the market. It's not the free market. It's not capitalism. It's regulations requiring them to keep these sports. Now, what's interesting about this is that the casino loves highlight, meaning like the owners aren't just like it's something we have to do. They did it in the most fun, exciting way. They hired 18 players. They hired a bunch of coaches and announcers. They have parties. They have a family day on Sunday. They did it up right, and they went to the University of Miami, as you heard in the trailer, and they said, let's just get former athletes, so not professional highlight players, not even amateur highlight players. You're talking about a sport from Spain where at the peak of the game in the 80s, there were 3 African-American players in the world. And they basically quintupled that. I mean, they integrated the game with these guys.
It's actually a brilliant idea.
It's brilliant, and they're funny. So, because some of these guys are sort of local celebrities and sports heroes, and you heard one of the guys just say in the trailer, we're like the Jamaican bobsled team, and it's like that. It's like Bad News Bears or Major League or Cool Runnings, and even though
but it's real life,
in real life, and even though they suck at the beginning, you start to really root for these guys. And I've been back. The second season started already at Magic City Casino.
Players?
And most of them,
yeah,
most of them, and they're better now. It's more competitive. The games go longer. They're catching, they're throwing.
And they're probably starting to get a little traction.
Yeah, that's the thing is that it doesn't matter.
This will certainly build awareness.
It doesn't matter how good of an athlete you are, how well conditioned you are. This is a game of practice, and like kids from Spain. Yeah, kids from Spain. It's like muscle memory, So kids from Spain who are playing, who get a cesta put on their hand when they're 8 or 9 years old, they were the experts and the professionals in the game. You might remember that Miami Vice episode about it, and it's just a funny
And
world.
the instructor had a role. The guy that was the instructor here was in that Miami Vice deal.
He had a cameo. He had a line in Miami Vice.
Keep
back in the
keep
day.
it clean.
Yeah. What's interesting?
Keep it clean.
What's interesting about this is that in Miami-Dade, the United Way put out this Alice report earlier this year, and they revealed that 60%, that's 60% of Miami-Dade County residents cannot afford to make ends meet in the county.
Yeah.
And 40% of those, or 40% are the working poor, meaning they have a minimum one job, and they can't afford to live in the county that they live in. And just basics. We're talking about cost of living, public transportation, education, you just can't afford to live there. And so Miami's a hustle town. That's what they say at the beginning of the trailer. Everybody, nobody has
Everybody's
one
got
gig.
a hustle.
Everybody's got their side hustles.
The one guy he imported cars. He did a beauty shop. He was doing a rap album.
Security.
He
did. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, and so this is a real embrace. And we also, this is the first documentary we've ever made where there's no original score. We didn't do, original
some
music.
of the rap from the guy, didn't you?
Yeah.
We used
their stuff.
I think we licensed 38 songs from all local acts, so all South Florida bands and hip hop artists.
Cool.
That's what the soundtrack is.
Billy, let me finish this out, and then I want to do words, and I want to have another segment with you so we can get into the Macho Man Dan LeBatard deal.
Let's do it.
Can we do that?
Yes, sir.
Let me just finish this out here.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
You Anyway, this is brand new. It's Magic City Hustle. You can go to MagicCityHustle.com.
Just watched it last night, too, and it went by quick.
Magic City, it's an hour 55 standard. MagicCityHustle.com. Billy Corben, of course, the guy. You can get a hold of Billy on Twitter. All things Billy. And how do you say that? Your studio?
Raconteur. Yeah, it's pronounced LeBatard Studios.
You're such a son of a bitch. Look, you know what? I think I just blew Billy's mind because I'm now recognized. I think the Guinness Book of World Records.
You blew my something.
Yeah. Back to Lanny.
Yeah.
I had to get you on that one. So 141 million, Tuttle, right?
Yeah.
141 million divided by 1 minute and 37 seconds. Is 100. Well, hold on.
Divided by 97. So
97.
We'll do, yes.
Okay,
So per second.
141 divided by 97, right?
Yeah.
Per second. What do we get?
$1.45 million a second.
That we're talking some Avengers Endgame money.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
That's an Avatar re-release.
I mean,
bonus credits.
I mean, think about this, Pat. If you take the total time of the Avengers, right? I guarantee you that the guy didn't make
a 3-hour movie.
1.3 million a second.
No.
God, Billy, would that be something you should maybe think about?
Yeah. And yours has a happy ending.
What?
Your movie.
Yeah. It does have a happy ending, but we also lost a lot of everything.
You want to hear the title?
Yeah.
Video killed the radio star.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
You didn't like it?
No, it's good.
No, I think
too soon. Too soon.
You know what, Billy? I think you gave me one of those uncomfortable.
No,
that was cheesy.
No, but it's kind of brutal. No,
it is. We've lost it all, Billy. I had 10 affiliates, Sirius XM. I mean, you want to talk about broke? It's broke and salaciousness. I mean, we lost it all. The guy that distributed the sex tape took our job, and is currently there.
Really?
Yes. The guy that distributed the sex tape is the #1 rated guy in Tampa, has our slot with the company that we worked for.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a hell of a story.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Was that his goal?
Yes. And it's being tried right now, Hogan versus Cox in Pinellas County, and then I have a trial, Bubba the Love Sponge versus Cox. There's 2 major lawsuits.
I'm sorry. I'm such a juvenile. I'm giggling at the names of those lawsuits.
Hogan versus Cox and Bubba versus Cox. back to Lanny again. All things go back to Lanny. Billy Corben in the studio. Billy, let's talk about.
Speaking of Lanny, I finished those 8 inches that you gave me.
Oh, the Fabrizi Hidden 8. What did you think about that sandwich?
It was, and I don't usually do spicy, but there's something about that cheesy, spicy.
It's like they almost marinate it in cheese.
It's like a pulled chicken.
Yeah.
It's so good, and the chicken's really good, and I like that. The way they it's like almost like a pulled chicken kind of a thing. I don't know. I thought that was delicious. I ate the whole damn thing.
Mike's Pizza just got endorsed by the biggest slinging D of all, Billy Corben, man.
I ate the whole damn thing. I would try.
A guy wearing a Cuban sandwich shirt is now endorsing this chicken sandwich.
I would try a Cuban sandwich from this place, even with salami.
Yeah.
So Billy Corben in the studio. Billy, you know what? I think I get a good sense that we jive pretty good on the radio, don't you think?
I think so.
I mean, you've done a lot of radio, and you're good friends with Dan LeBatard. How many times you been on Dan's show?
Dan LeBatard, you mean? Yeah, I've been on his show a few times.
He mispronounces words.
I just do it on purpose.
I know, but I'm going to keep. It's not going to stop me from correcting you.
Listen, here's my opinion on Dan LeBatard. Okay.
Okay.
Is that he needs to stay in his lane.
Okay.
He needs to realize what got him to the dance. He's so highly paid. He's taken care of. There's just not a lot of these big radio franchises left, and he's got one of them. Not only do he has distribution through radio and massively syndicated, but also the television element as well. And if they don't want politics on their radio station, that you need to listen. Now that comes from a guy that historically doesn't listen, but that's kind of my opinion on it. What's your opinion? And I don't want you. You're not mad at me for saying that, are you?
I'm not mad at you for having an opinion. Of course not.
What's your opinion?
Nor am I mad at you for being wrong about it.
And I laugh about it.
I will tell you that I was just in your green room, and I'm sure that you saw me walking around in there, looking at the different plaques and things.
Surprisingly, he has cameras in there. He likes to film things.
I just assume that every room in your studio and home is wired for video and sound. So I think it's a pretty safe. But I think that's how everyone. If we all live that way, think of how much better people and nicer we'd be to each other if we all just assumed that we were on camera all the time.
Video killed the radio. It killed me.
That's right. And so I saw a plaque or some sort of trophy or award.
Hey, everybody for scoring at home, I'm getting ready to get this thing shoved so far up my ass right now. Billy's getting ready to flank me with some kind of craziness. I can feel it.
It said on it the First Amendment Award is what it said.
Yeah.
At the top, it said freedom of speech. And I understand that in a private corporation, that's not what the Constitution refers to. But I always have an issue with the words stay in your lane. And particularly from someone like you who is a monster proponent of the First Amendment, who, by your own admission just moments ago, said you historically do not stay in your lane. I just think that when you have first of all, there's the business element of it, which is people think that this line of work is easy. I'm here to tell you, radio is hard, man. When you are, you got to fill the dead air between commercials, and it's nothing but you and a microphone. It's a tough job. Everybody thinks they can do it, but it's tough. So I feel like, in a way, anything goes. I don't care if you're sports talk radio or your news or your the shock jock, however people want to pigeonhole you or categorize you. I think that anything goes when you're looking to fill that time, number one. That's just from the sort of business element of it. On the other end of it, I think it's very important that you bring your life experience and your story to the table. And Dan LeBatard's story and the story of his family as immigrants or Cuban exiles, as the community calls themselves, is a unique perspective on the radio. I don't think there's a ton of people with that exile or immigration experience who are on English language terrestrial radio. And so I think he brings something to the table that's very unique, and that you don't get a chance to hear that perspective. And I think you've been a major proponent of bringing people with different perspectives on your show.
Oh, yeah.
Whether, from all walks of life. I mean, the LGBTQ community and me, for crying out loud. I mean, we don't always agree, but I think we get along pretty well and have similar tastes in food, as it turns out. I certainly have a similar taste in food, more so than with you than Lanny, as it turns out. But I just
he's into the footlong. I heard.
That's
what I heard. I mean, like to go down to the New Jersey shore and go to get the footlong. That's what I heard. I'm not surprised at your perspective, but I am. I don't want to say trump you, but can I give you the best litmus test of all?
Sure.
That you understand. Because the people that you did Cocaine Cowboys for were different than the people that you did 30-30s for, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the people that are going to distribute Screwball are different than the people that put on Broke.
Absolutely.
Okay. Tell Dan that he can do it that way, and he can do what he said, and he can say and he can distribute his opinion and talk about his life stories and the struggles of Cuban immigrants. And look at what it got me. Look what it got me. Being outspoken and saying truly what's on your mind and living your life experience has me in the druthers where I am, and it's my own doing. And had I listened and not talked about certain things, I would be in a much better position. And he has such an enviable radio show and such a great distribution. I don't say this as a person that doesn't want to take his first. Dan should, by whatever means he has to distribute his true opinion, do that, and whether it be a podcast or a one-off. But when he's doing his job for ESPN, I know you hate to say stay in the lane, but the lane that they hired him in, he needs to stay in because it's just so damn profitable and does so damn well for him.
I respect that
from
position.
A guy that's lost it all,
right? From a guy that understands what the risk is,
and understands how valuable what he has is worth.
And that is the prerogative of his employer, meaning the First Amendment does not apply in that private corporation, and they can take whatever action they see fit. And Dan knew the risks, I think, perfectly well when he started to speak his mind. I also think that we are uniquely situated in history right now. It's hard to see the forest for the trees when you're living history. But I think we live in frightening times, particularly for people who are underserved or unserved, whether that means the immigrant community or the LGBTQ community or the African American community. I think people feel more threatened now than they have in their lifetimes, and I think that we are going to come to a moment in history where we'll look back and someone will say, "Daddy, what did you do during the war?" And you will say, "Well, I used my platform to speak my truth, to speak my mind. I used my platform to call out what I thought was wrongdoing, systemic wrongdoing in this country and against people who did not have the platform that I had or the soapbox that I had to speak for themselves." And so I took the opportunity I had and the power that I had at that time to tell the truth and to speak, more importantly, speak truth to power.
I'm just worried about him as a fellow broadcaster because I know how corporate America will cave. And nobody's bigger than the pressure that 6 trolls can put on ESPN. And it's just, it's outlandish and absolutely, it should be illegal with regards to the trolls and the levels that they play on. And I'm just worried about Dan, that if he doesn't play their game, that big corporate America could now Dan could be such a huge franchise that I've underestimated Dan's franchise in worth in Miami and certainly globally. So I don't know what his personal worth or what his franchise, the strength of his franchise of being able to demand he do what he wants. I'm just worried about him because I just know how corporate America acts, and they will spit you up and throw you out if they get too much blowback.
Well, I don't know the answer to that either. I do know that Dan is an incredibly valued and valuable member of the South Florida community. I know that he and his father, certainly Poppy through the show, are beloved.
Poppy's a star
all over the country and all over the world. And I don't know that that he's too big to fail at the company. I don't know, and I don't know that there won't be. There's already been fallout, obviously, some controversy. I don't know that, and I don't know that it will go unpunished.
I think Dan could actually build a platform using this to build an additional platform, and he does the best of both worlds.
Rogan.
I think Dan could be a Rogan type deal, and he could do a sports deal and to pay the bills and what have you, and then build this other free speech or how he feels politically about particular issues in another forum. And I think this could actually be what launched this new additional forum. Do you think that's a possibility?
I think anything's possible, and I think that maybe some variation on that is how this all shakes out. I mean, I know that I think he is uniquely talented in the sports talk radio space.
Do you think he's frustrated, Billy, in the fact that he wants to get out of his sports lane, and he's certainly educated and very well and very much a great broadcaster to be able to to get his word and his opinion out in a very eloquent and educated way, interject with callers and what have you. He's a true radio guy.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's itching to maybe get out of the sports lane, so to speak, and maybe get into a little bit more of the political skewing stuff.
I think Dan's one of the smartest guys, if not the smartest guy in sports talk radio.
I think he's one of the guys.
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
But you don't see Jim Rome itching to get into conservative or liberal talk. Is Dan itching to do that, you think?
Oh, I don't think so. And when you grow up, by the way, in the Cuban community in Miami, you are very much right of center, if not far right of center. That's the community that you grow up in.
Do you think you're living in a Miami bubble, though? Because, I mean, you're globally syndicated, and you're living in your Miami bubble. And I don't say that disrespectfully.
Dude,
I don't say that disrespectfully.
Let me say this. The Miami of today is the America of tomorrow. So if you're living in the Miami bubble, you're
ahead of your time.
You're a soothsayer. Yeah, you're a fortune teller. You are Walter Mercado. You are ahead of your time. You know what's up, and you know where the country, and thus the world is going. And so I think that Dan is onto something. Whether or not how it shakes out with the corporate side of it remains to be seen. But I mean, there's no doubt, like you said, there is a market for his talent.
Yeah.
Whether it's independent or however it works.
I would say double dip and get that ESPN money playing Johnny Sports Guy, and then fold that into what you really want to do. That's what I'm thinking.
He's got the podcast network now, but it is an ESPN branded and financed operation. It's pretty fantastic, actually. I've done some of the podcasts over there, and he's got a great crew and some really fun guests, obviously, that he can get just by virtue of being in the sports world in Miami.
Right.
You know, all the cool people, and he's in the Clevelander Hotel on Ocean Drive, which is like
he's the man. Like I mean,
Spring Break
the
Central.
guy is so well connected.
Yeah,
I just don't want him to see him lose that franchise. And to go out and do this somewhat fringe franchise when he's so good at the other.
I
guess more importantly, I'm worried for him because I've been the victim of trying to be bullheaded and do it my way, and it didn't work out. I'm not Dan LeBatard, but I got killed.
And I respect.
I got killed.
And you have that experience, and so I respect that's how you're approaching this. And listen, you know what's the line from Airplane? They bought their tickets. They knew what they were getting into. I say, let them crash. Dan's a big boy. Dan opened his mouth, and he knew what he was going to say, and he knew what the risks were and are. And so, meaning, you know, you'd have to say, well, listen, he's a professional. He's not new to this radio game, and you know he knows what the consequences could be. But he felt like it was his time and his place to make that statement, and I admire him for it. I loved and admired the guy 2 weeks ago. I love and admire the guy even more now, and I think we should walk into to your green room, and I think we should present Dan with the First Amendment Award that you've got right there next to your conference table.
I'm sure you're going to take mine, and that's great. I don't. You know what? I really don't need it anymore. I need to maybe anoint Dan with it because he needs it far more than me right now.
Yeah, hopefully it's bulletproof. Hopefully it's a shield.
Hopefully it's not It's not like when the Brady Bunch's the bad luck charm. You remember the Brady Bunch bad luck charm?
Yeah, the bad idol.
Billy, did you grow up with Brady Bunch guy or no?
No, I mean I watched Nick at Night, you know, so I watched some.
The Brady Bunch went to
stuff.
Hawaii, and Peter found this voodoo doll or something like that.
Like a tiki idol,
and it gave the whole entire family bad luck, and it was a big whodunit. You know,
is that were they the first sitcom to go to Hawaii? Because every single sitcom,
I think
goes to Disney
Scooby-Doo.
World or Hawaii.
I think Scooby-Doo went to Hawaii.
How did Scooby-Doo go? They're cartoons.
Yeah, I know, but I mean,
talking about real life.
Talking
about. Have you been drinking again, Pat?
No,
Are you sober?
I'm 11 days sober now, man.
Okay, all right.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was hard. Bubba almost killed me one night during a drunk party.
We had Tuttle's Drunkapalooza last Friday, and he completely passed out and peed his pants, and it was crazy.
Yeah, it was bad.
Billy Corben.
embarrassed.
Billy Corben in the studio. Billy's in town.
Thanks for blowing me in on the peeing in the pants thing.
No problem. I mean, you're not a true alcoholic unless you pee your pants.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
That's
you can't even say I'm 11 days sober if it didn't come with peeing your pants on the on the -1 day.
Yeah, I know.
Billy Corben in the studio. Billy is a longtime legend of all kinds of great things. His newest documentary is Magic City Hustle. You can go to magiccityhustle.com. He's in Tampa doing his latest documentary for A&E. It's called Maybe Savage or Macho Man. It's about Macho Man. He was in the Amalie Arena yesterday taping all the boys because it was an old-timer reunion. And did the one common denominator with the people that were reflecting on Macho Man, Billy, was the fact that he cut some of the best promos. He was one of the best promo cutters of all. And that's the promos that they would run in between commercials and, promoting who they're wrestling next. Did the boys all say that?
Yeah, there seems to be three recurring themes in all the interviews. Number one, promos, best in the business.
Yeah, I got to drop here. Hold on here.
Unjustifiably in a position that I'd rather not be in.
Story. There's another title for your documentary potentially.
Yeah.
But that's the first thing. The best in the business on promos.
Yep.
Second, Slim Jim. Slim Jim everybody always talks about Slim Jim.
He got that Slim Jim money.
Yeah, I got that Slim Jim money.
And Slim Jim brilliantly branded it, did they not?
Amazing. I mean, he built our assistant at our office. She got to be, what is she, 23 years old, 22 years old. She's very young. And so I said, we're doing this Macho Man documentary. She says, who the hell is that? And I was like, you don't know who Macho Man Randy Savage is? She goes, no. And she goes, wait, is that the Slim Jim guy? So she knew.
She knew about it.
No, but that's incredible. Like
Yeah.
Listen,
exactly.
However your legacy endures, it is an enduring legacy. He's that recognizable of a figure.
And what was number 3?
Well, there's
insanely jealous of Elizabeth.
I would say more than 3, but number 3 seems to be that
He was flipped out about Miss Elizabeth.
Well, there was no, I'll put it to you this way, that there was little to no distinction between Randy Poffo and Randy Savage.
Yeah, true.
It wasn't
in character.
It wasn't a gimmick necessarily because he was always
on
like that. And Hogan even talked about how once 3 o'clock in the morning the night before the morning of a match, he was like he called him up.
Terry, I'm just gonna talk to you about the head spot I'm gonna do in the second round.
Right, what the hell, We'll do it tomorrow, in the morning. Why are we talking about this now in the middle of the night? Because he was always on and always wired and always thinking about the next match and I really like this idea that he didn't pull punches. The idea that whether there were 20 people in the venue or 20,000 people in the venue or 200,000 people in the venue, he gave everybody the same show. And he was second generation Carney, second generation wrestler. So he,
I think he played for the St. Louis Cardinals, did he not?
For a minute, well, that's how he first came to this area.
Right,
is when he was a baseball player. And there was and there's some really interesting facts that I don't know that we've that have really been, if they've been reported, they haven't really been explored. And so I haven't been a wrestling fan since the 80s, since I was a kid, since the Macho Man era. So being kind of an outsider looking in, I think I have a unique perspective on the things that I feel are interesting and some of the things that I think maybe haven't been explored so much.
I'll tell you what hasn't been explored is how much he hated us. Because Hogan and him had heat, and Hogan was my best friend, and Hogan would use us to drive Randy locally insane. Literally. When he came out with his new rap album, are you familiar with that?
Be a Man?
Right. Well, we came up with a parody. Let me play it for you. Now, we were the number one show in Tampa, 98 Rock, and Macho Man listened to us every morning like everybody did. And so we came up with this parody, and he would listen to it at the gym, and everybody would clown him, and he would get mad, and he would go to lawyers and try to get me sued. But here's an example of what we used to do to drive him crazy.
Anytime you're ready, Randy.
Look, if you had just one opportunity to transform from a washed-up roid rage wrestler to a hip-hop aficionado, would you capture it? Oh yeah, dig it! Up chuck the boogie, the bang bang the boogie.
So we would do parody spots on him, Billy, and he would have to hear this, and then everybody would grease him all day. Like, Mach, I heard you doing your outtakes on Bubba Show. It's not me. Oh, God. He gets so mad. Let's hold on.
Yo, my palms are sweaty. Spandex tights are heavy. Lost the hair on my head already, but my back's like a Yeti. I'm nervous. See, my hair falls out like confetti. Bow wow. Just like cold spaghetti. An old clown punked out in my hometown. I take off my bandana and my hair falls out. Not enough cardio, dude.
Yeah, Randy.
Oh, that's a pretty good Randy impersonation, too.
Yeah, I mean, would that not, and Randy was really uptight and really in character, so this would drive him crazy. Absolutely. Let me just play just a little bit more.
That was really great and everything, but that's already been done. That song's been done by Eminem. You got anything original? Your own stuff?
No, man. I want to do Eminem, man. That dude is tight. He's my idol, my hero, Eminem. Marshall Mathers. Let's do the next track. Yo, dig it. Oh, yeah. A tisket, a tasket, my colon is spastic. So much Botox, my face looks plastic. Hulk Hogan, you can get your ass kicked, but not by me. Wow. Has been.
So anyway, Billy, that's why.
Wow.
That's the dynamic that we had with Macho Man, to the point where he consulted with like 3 or 4 attorneys all the time. Be like, I want to sue Bubba. He's making songs about me. And they're like, listen, you're a public figure, and he's the radio guy, and you can't. Oh, damn. So at the opening of my buddy's restaurant, Frank Chevis at Island Way Grill, I don't know if you asked if Terry or Hogan touched on this, but we went going to the debut of this new place called the Island Way Grill, and me and Hogan were going to be there, and Macho Man was going to be there, and Macho Man's ex-girlfriend later told me that he carried a knife in her purse because he said, if Terry and Bubba start their stuff, I'm going to stab them both. He had a knife in her purse ready to stab me and Hogan.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Were you all there?
Yeah, we were all there, and we walked by, and he's like, yeah, and he wouldn't say anything to us, and he was really mad. And I go, what's up, Randy? I don't like your songs. And then they start, we didn't get into a scuffle or anything, but oh yeah, yeah. This is some information you may should have known. The infamous knife and the deal at Island Way.
Oh my God.
Billy Corben in the studio. Billy, God, it's been What have we been on 2 hours with you?
Have we?
Have you ever been on 2 hours with Dan LeBatard?
It flew by.
With a 8-inch spicy chicken sandwich. I mean, Billy, this might be hopefully one of your better experiences of radio.
This is a great time, and I love Tampa. I actually really enjoy. Traveling's tough, when you're working all the time.
When you're on a private jet.
Yeah, if you mean American Airlines.
Yeah.
But it's always a pleasure actually coming to Tampa. I'm always sorry I can't spend more time.
Are we kind of we're not as shady as Miami, but we're probably the second shadiest city in Florida, wouldn't you think?
Well, that's St. Pete, I think.
You think St. Pete's shady? Oh, yeah.
I think St. Pete's shadier than Tampa. You don't think so?
No.
Clearwater?
No. Right. Tampa is
right.
with the old Tropicana. There's the old Tropicana influences.
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely.
I know you know about all that.
I do, yeah.
Are you of opinion that JFK was killed from, through Tropicana, through Cuba, through New Orleans?
I'm not of that opinion. I'm not of that opinion. But my grandfather did some business with Tropicana in Cuba.
Oh, really?
Or tried to. Yeah, they were trying to open some hotels and do some business there just before everybody knew which way Castro was going to go. Before they seized all the the hotels.
Have you been to Cuba? Modern day, we can travel down there.
It up.
Dude, I live in Miami. Why do I need to go to Cuba?
That's true. Your backyard.
Yeah,
right.
they say the great thing about Miami is it's so close to the United States.
Yeah.
You got to have a lot of money to live in Miami, though, don't you? Hogan used to tell me that valet was $100 back then.
Oh, it's
like you had a valet 100.
Yeah, I told you, 60% of the county can't afford to live in the county. I mean, that's
when
where
you and your
we're at.
wife go out to dinner. What are you valeting, Billy? Like not car, but like what kind of? Is it 20? Is it 40?
No, we take the Alai Uber driver.
Oh, that's right.
We take because he does
Amish guy.
The Amish. I do luxury. What does he say? I don't do that regular Uber.
He goes. People don't want to go to the beach in luxury at noon. I got to wait till night. It's bad hours.
He works. Yeah, he works the graveyard shift like Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver.
Billy Corben, all things Billy. Of course, you can see Billy on Twitter at Billy Corben.
He's one of the greatest follows on Twitter. Like I get a lot of my show prep from him locally when it comes to
coming from a man who urinates himself.
Yeah.
I take that as a real compliment.
God damn it, Bubba! Why did you do that to me? My idol knows that I peed in my pants.
That is not even in the top 1,000 of rock bottoms that I've heard of.
Okay, all right, good. Thank God.
Tuttle, and a guy that peed himself 11 days ago belongs on my show. I mean, rock bottoms attract each other.
Dude, it's been 11 hours since I drank last, so I'm impressed.
Yeah,
Billy, I got to tell you, man, anytime you got something new coming out, this is the first time that I've met you. I've had you on the show a lot. True, yeah. And, one-stop shopping with us promoting all of your stuff. I really, really had a great time. I don't keep a lot of people on for 2 hours. I don't know that you can stay on people's show for 2 hours.
I appreciate it. You are my on any radio tour, you are my second stop after Dan LeBatard.
After Dan. You tell Dan, listen, I want you to tell Dan that I didn't say what I said out of hate. I said it out of concern because he's got a very valuable franchise. And I mean, God, just keep telling ESPN what they want to hear because you're getting paid, buddy. You're the man.
Is that what you would do if you had to do it all over again?
Yep, I would.
Really?
Yes, I would.
You would toe the company line.
More so.
You'd shut your mouth and you just do the show they wanted you to do every day.
More so than I did. I think more so than I did might have me in a better predicament than I am today. And I tell Dan that from a position of living it, like I'm living it right now.
Towing the company line pays the bills.
Yeah, it's true, but I don't know that you even know.
He's made so much money that he has all that FU swagger and he can do whatever the F he wants.
But even knowing what you know now, if you literally went back in time, so you weren't, Bubba at this age, but you were Bubba at, at that age.
If I could go back 10 years, I could salvage. I could have salvaged everything if I could just go back to 2008.
Yeah, but would you? I mean, I feel like
I would like to. Yes, immediately. Can you make that happen?
I feel like I got my DeLorean with a flux capacitor in the back.
Whatever it takes, including maybe some stuff I would be embarrassed of.
I don't know. I feel like we are the people who we are when we are those people, and even endowed with different knowledge of the future, we still are going to find a way.
But when you lose your house, Billy, and you lose, all the things that mean a lot to you, and you're scraping the barrel, Sometimes you have a different opinion.
You got your own bar here.
You got a shower too.
You got your own bar. You got your shower. I mean, this
stripper
is
pole.
This is not bad as far as scraping the bottom of the barrel is concerned. This is not so bad. You got the whole bar, stripper pole.
Oh, the bank's getting ready to foreclose any day.
All you need is some diapers for Tuttle, and you're all set.
The next time,
damn it.
And the next time we do our show, Billy, will probably be from like a seafood warehouse. That's probably where our place is going to be.
And I'll be there for some deviled crab.
Yeah.
I listen, I don't know if you really would be interested, but I think we do kind of that. What has happened to me is kind of an interesting story, and it's as shady as anything that's ever happened in Florida.
Because Florida, I think you might be right. It might be a great Florida story.
Oh, I think so. I mean, it's involving Hulk Hogan and Bubba the Love Sponge with another radio personality who sucked, but got Bubba the Love Sponge's job by distributing said sex tape, and still is there, making tons of money and being the man.
I just came up with the greatest title for this.
Not interested?
Video killed the radio star.
You're such a mother effer.